Good Monday afternoon to you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. It is the beginning of draft week. Plenty of Browns to talk about. Brad Ward from BrownsWire.com will join us a little later in the show. And we begin with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. So Mary Kay, there is some news, and I preface this by saying this is the week where you hear all kinds of crazy stuff as teams are throwing up smoke screens to really tell what they're thinking or to throw teams off the track. But there's some talk that George Karlaftis, edge rusher from Purdue, could fall out of the first round, much like JOK did a season ago. Let's take a look at his scouting profile. This is from NFL.com. They project him to be a first-round pick. They love his motor, great power, had some production, did miss a little bit of the year, but a future starter as a strong side defender in an even or odd front. He's pretty good against the run. He is really good around the edge. Let me ask you this, and if he falls into the second round, much like JOK did, can you see this being a guy that Andrew Berry would be intrigued by, that he may trade up into the second round, higher in the second round to get a shot at?
So I think that this draft is so incredibly hard to predict. There are guys that I have seen mocked to go in the middle of the first round all the way to the end of the second round. So if you find a guy like this that you had a first round grade on, like they did with JOK last year, and he starts to fall to you and you get close to 44, then by all means, go for it. I think that Andrew is aggressive enough to do something like that. I think they view their picks as currency, and that if you can use something to move up and get the player that you want, then by all means do it. And, like you said, this is a very good player. This is someone that can come in and help solidify your edge rush, and I would be all for that. 44, yeah, you can get a good player at 44, but there just might be somebody in the 30s that you can go grab.
Is this the kind of draft that somebody's going to fall into the second round because there are so many areas that are deep? There's a lot of edge rushers that are considered pretty good. There's a lot of wide receivers. Is that the type of draft where you could see somebody kind of fall through the cracks into that second round?
I think so. I think there are a lot of players in this draft that you can have a first round grade on, and not all of them are going to be able to be squeezed into the first round. And as I mentioned before, there's a vast disparity in grading these players this year. There are players that are all over the map in terms of where people are mocking them and projecting them. And it's sort of weird that this is the year for that, because they actually did play football last year, right? I mean, they played a full entire college football season, and yet no one seems to know where to put a lot of these different guys. And it is a deep draft. It's very, very deep. So it's just going to matter. It's going to be a matter of what the preference is, where a run on guys starts to go. I mean, if you start to have a run on receivers, then all of a sudden you're going to find more receivers go in the first round, and then maybe some of those defensive linemen trickle down into the second round. So I think it's going to be just a big fact-finding mission sitting there on Thursday night, and everybody finally seeing once and for all where these players are going to go.
Time for us to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, this one about the Denzel Ward contract, and then what comes next for Andrew Berry in the front office.
Yes. Hi, my name is Richard here in Canton, and me, myself personally, I'm happy we signed Denzel Ward. He is one of the best corners in the league, and now we just got to bring back Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney opposite Myles Garrett is a good fit. This is coming from a 4-3 defense kind of guy. He's a good fit. That's your opposite Myles Garrett. Now, as far as like the wide receivers, yes, I like the receivers we have now, but also brings back Jarvis Landry because he brings like that locker room like quality leadership that these guys need, especially in that wide receiver room, because that's a young group of receivers, and they just need somebody who's going to give them that kind of guidance. And also extend Kareem Hunt. because Kareem Hunt and Demetrius Felton, along with Nick Chubb and Dearness Johnson, are four of your best running backs who can do it all, run the ball, catch the ball, block, all of the above. So definitely bring those guys back, especially keep Kareem Hunt in Cleveland where he belongs at home. That's all I got to say. Go Browns.
All right, as always, we appreciate all of the voicemails. Mary Kay, we've talked about it. The Browns would love to get Clowney and Landry back. How realistic do you think it is that Andrew Berry is able to maybe potentially extend Hunt?
Well, I think they would be able to extend Kareem Hunt if they decide they want to do that. And I for sure would do that. I would do that in a heartbeat. I think he's underutilized. I think he's a tremendous talent. I still think he has somewhat fresh legs because he hasn't been used that much for the last 3 years. If you think about it, he has saved so much wear and tear. Now he was injured for, for a period of time last year, but even so, that's a lot of tread not being taken off of those tires. So I would go ahead and I would do it, and I would use him more than he has been used before in the passing game and in the running game. Keep, again, a little bit of that wear and tear off of Nick Chubb, and, keep those guys together as that effective 1-2 punch.
Well, the other thing that the voicemailer mentioned was Jadeveon Clowney and trying to re-sign him. We know the Browns are still talking to him. Myles Garrett on his Instagram posted this over the weekend. Job not finished. That is he and Clowney. So not a surprise. Garrett would like his bookend end back with the Browns, and I think they make each other better. I think that's fair to say, don't you?
Yes, and I was delighted to find when I went and looked up that photo that it was from our own amazing photographer, Josh Gunter. So good job for that for Josh. He deserves some credit for that. It was a really nice photo, as they all are for Josh and John Kuntz. But anyways, so yes, Myles put in his 2 cents, lobbied for Jadeveon. I think it's to the point where they're just going to get through the draft and probably get Jadeveon done after that. I just think it's almost kind of a foregone conclusion in my mind. I think he wants to be back. I think they want him back. Myles obviously wants him. What's there to wait for? Get this thing done.
Yeah, and that takes a little bit of the load off the mind of everybody of what are you going to do on that defensive line as well. Also some good news. Jack Conklin, and I know you wrote about this over the weekend. Tell us about Conklin, where he sits and kind of what lies ahead and how he's looking.
Well, I mean, good for him that to have surgery to repair a torn patella tendon in December and to be back at the offseason program in April. I think that's pretty darn remarkable. Now, at the Senior Bowl, I ran into his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, and he told me that Jack was doing great, that he was ahead of schedule, and that he was absolutely on pace to be the starter at the beginning of the season. And if it works out that way, that's so great for the Browns, because right tackle is just as important these days as your left tackle. And we all saw what happened at times last year when Jack was out injured. So hopefully he can stay healthy this year. It'll be really, really good for Deshaun Watson if he can have 2 healthy tackles this season. And the fact that Jack's back in the offseason program is great.
Amari Cooper, a big acquisition, number 1 wide receiver. He met with the media last week, talked about being that number 1 wide receiver and the leader of that room.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about, wide receivers in their production, there are some extenuating circumstances there. It's not like I play tackle or something like that to where if I'm a great player, it's going to show just because, it's just mano that way. But, like you mentioned earlier, the weather plays a part in the receiver, obviously the targets and stuff like that. I always felt like if I, get the targets, I'm going to do well. So it's never been a concern of mine. The single most important way that my game has gotten better is just experience, I'm a smarter player. I'm a vet. I understand how games go in the league, the ebb and flow of things. So just experience. At this point in my career, I'm a veteran. It's my responsibility to help the younger guys, And the thing about, playing in the NFL or playing in any league, I would assume. It goes by so fast. You know, I'm already in my 8th year. I remember being the youngest guy because I was drafted when I was 20. And then as the years go by, sometimes you still kind of feel like you're the youngest guy until you look up and you're like, wait, I'm the oldest guy in the room. And then that's when you start to realize, hey, it's my responsibility to look after these guys, to make these guys better, to make the room better, to make the team better. And so I embrace that.
Rick, I don't know. When I'm listening to him talk, he's a wide receiver version of Nick Chubb, and that's got to be a huge thing for that offense.
Well, when you think about it, there's usually no wide receiver version of any quiet guy in the NFL, right? I mean, the wide receivers in the NFL, those are generally your talkers. Those are the guys with the egos. Those are the guys with all of the personality, and, you know, they've got all the cool things to say. So to have somebody that sort of has that Nick Chubb, sort of humble, a little bit quiet vibe, maybe crack a smile occasionally, it is different than what we're used to at the receiver position. Really liked Amari Cooper's press conference the other day. I thought he said all the right things. He seems just really, really genuine in terms of the person that he is. And I don't know, there's just something very cool about him.
Yeah, it seemed like he's all about winning, which, you know, that you can't have enough guys that are all about winning. Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. A question about Andrew Berry from one of our viewers. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Time for us to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the Browns general manager, Andrew Berry.
Hey, Andrew Berry going into his 3rd year and all the moves he's made in these last couple of years being our GM. Do you think he's establishing himself as one of the best GMs in the NFL? I feel like it's been a long time since Cleveland's had somebody who cares about winning, and, you know, for a long time, you know, we put the wrong people in the wrong places and we didn't have no good. But since Andrew Berry's been here, I feel like he's established himself to be one of the best young, up-and-coming GMs, if not one of the best GMs in the NFL. Just want to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Go Browns.
Appreciate it very much, Mary Kay. As a beat reporter who has covered the team for a while, I'll defer to you. Let you answer this one first. How impressive has Andrew Berry been first few years as the general manager?
Yeah, Andrew's been very impressive. And one of the things that I find about Andrew that strikes me whenever I go anywhere is how everyone raves about Andrew out in the NFL world. Agents, other general managers, players, owners, you name it. He's building a great reputation out there. People like to do business with him. He shoots the players straight. he shoots the agents straight. Even though Baker doesn't, seem to think that right now, I do think that they were very transparent with him and with his agent. And I don't think anybody really thought it was going to turn out quite the way that it did, but I think they handled it okay. And, most players and agents feel that way. I'm going to be going back and grading or looking at the first draft of Andrew Berry's later today. And, so far so good with his two couple of drafts. There's a few players here and there that they really need to see step up. But for the most part, he's done a nice job with the drafts, with trades. They're phenomenal at the salary cap. I wrote about this over the weekend. And when you they have 3 multiple Pro Bowl players on the roster right now in Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper, and Denzel Ward. They have 9 Pro Bowls among them. And those guys are only counting for less than $20 million on the cap this year. That gives them roster flexibility to be able to still go out and sign a Jadeveon Clowney, to still go out and sign a Jarvis Landry. And that's because of this amazing front office. That's what happens, I guess, when you hire people that are as brilliant as these guys are. So, yeah, I think he's done a great job.
And he's still one of the youngest general managers in all of football as well. So good to have him locked up with the Browns for a while. All right, this is kind of interesting. So Kadarius Toney was the 20th pick in the draft a season ago, wide receiver out of Florida. Here's Pat Leonard from New York Daily News. He's a Giants beat reporter.
Hey everybody, some breaking news here on Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. The Giants are looking to trade second-year wide receiver Kadarius Toney. League sources tell me the Giants are making calls, seeing what they can get on the number 20 overall pick from a year ago. Toney obviously had a tumultuous rookie season and now has not shown up for the start of first-year coach Brian Daboll's program. Obviously, he has talent. Hopefully, he figures it out. But it looks like the Giants are close to moving on from Kadarius Toney. They are investigating the way they can do that now.
And Mary Kay, he did report to those voluntary workouts today, a couple of days late. 39 catches, 420 yards, did have 16 for 267 in a 2-game span earlier in the year. Would be entering his second year. Is this the kind of guy, if it costs you a 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick, that now he does have maturity issues, but those aside, is this the type of guy that you could see Andrew Berry flipping one of those mid-round picks for?
Well, from a talent standpoint, yes, but they're very careful here about how they construct the roster in terms of what kind of guys they're bringing in, what kind of personalities they're bringing in, and how it's all going to fit together. So they would have to do their due diligence and make sure that this is the kind of young man that they want in the receiver room in terms of work ethic, in terms of character, as you mentioned, in terms of maturity. And, sometimes a guy needs a change of scenery. Sometimes if you put a guy like that with an Amari Cooper, things go a little bit better than where he was before. So, you have to factor all those things in. But if you could get him for a mid to late round pick and you felt that he was that genuine first round talent and you had that kind of grade on him last year, it's definitely worth pursuing. And
the other thing is keep in mind, if maturity issues tend to be magnified in a place like New York. That is not an easy place to play football, baseball, or do anything out in public. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason one more time before we go to break. This one about a wide receiver question.
I've been hearing a lot of rumors that Deshaun Jackson's interested in playing for the Browns. And you see that they keep saying that they're tied to Will Fuller, that there's interest there. Who would you rather have, Deshaun Jackson, or would you rather have Will Fuller? As a fan for myself, I would rather have Deshaun Jackson because, yes, he's older, but at least he plays. He's not hurt for the majority of the year at least. Just want to hear your guys' opinion. Go Browns.
All right, appreciate it. Mary Kay, which of those two do you think fits better?
It's a great question. And I still have to dig into I don't know if it's reports, rumors, or whatever, that Deshaun Jackson would like to play for the Cleveland Browns. I don't know enough about that yet. I would find that to be interesting, but I wouldn't be surprised by that. Why? Because who doesn't want to play for the Cleveland Browns right now that they have Deshaun Watson, right? I mean, I'm sure receivers are lining up at the door, or would, for an opportunity to play with Deshaun Watson. That's what those guys want. That's what those receivers want. They want to get the ball from a guy like that who's going to feed them early and often and get the ball there and make their job look very easy. So that doesn't surprise me. As our emailer or caller mentioned, Will Fuller is younger, but I haven't heard too much about a lot of interest in Will Fuller yet on the part of the Browns. And maybe sometimes that is a money issue. Sometimes when you get past the draft and you get into that third wave of free agency, the bargains start to look a little bit better. And somebody that you weren't interested in, you become interested in. And maybe it's a situation where if you don't sign Jarvis, you start to look at a Will Fuller or a Deshaun Jackson. So I think there's a lot that can still happen. All of it, I'm guessing, post-draft.
Mary Kay Cabot and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Viewer has an idea of what the Browns need to be Super Bowl contenders. We'll also take a look at some of the moves the Browns have made and what they tell us. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Thanks for buying a fishing license. I want you to picture all the great things this simple purchase does. Like building public boat ramps, keeping local waters clean, and maintaining a healthy fish population.
What's Mom doing?
When you buy a fishing license, you do a lot. Every dollar protects and maintains your local waterways for future generations to enjoy. Visit takemefishing.org.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Time for us to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about where this Browns team sits exactly.
Hello, this is Randall McKissack, lifelong Browns fan. I'll go all the way back to the Bill Nelson days, the Leroy Kelly. I got a prediction, and I'd like to hear what you guys think. I think if Deshaun Watson is allowed to play, and if the Browns get a competent kicker, Deshaun Watson will be the MVP of the league. Myles Garrett will be the defensive player of the year, and the Browns will win the Super Bowl this year. I'm predicting that the Browns are going to win it this year. All the elements is in place. He's getting the right players. I haven't seen anything on the kicker yet. I know he brought back the guy that we had. I don't like him. I hope they replace him. But I'm predicting that the Browns is going to win the Super Bowl this year, and I'm going to go online to get my ticket from Vegas, MGM, put my bet down now. All right, love to hear you guys' thoughts. Thanks.
Appreciate all the voicemails. So, Mary Kay, what about it?
Hey, you know what? They have as good a chance as anyone. If Deshaun Watson plays most of the season, the Cleveland Browns, make no mistake, will have as good a chance of making the Super Bowl as any other team in the NFL this season. And I don't think we would be saying that right now if Baker Mayfield were the quarterback for 2022. I think you can honestly say that Deshaun puts you right up there with the best of the best, that he can go compete head-to-head with any of these other quarterbacks in the AFC or even in the NFC. And that's what the Browns were going for. That's why they did this. That's why they took this risk and this chance and took on all this controversy, because Not only do they believe in him off the field, but they 100% believe in him on the field. And he will make everybody around him better. And one thing that I do see happening already, just in with what Denzel Ward said, it looks like Myles Garrett and Deshaun Watson are collaborating together on leadership. They're planning some trips to get these guys all together. And I think that bodes well for the future.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Deshaun Watson did have pieces around him when he was with the Texans, and you know, DeAndre Hopkins he has never had the line. He hasn't had the run game. You have Amari Cooper. He hasn't been surrounded by this much talent on the offensive side of the ball before, and quite honestly, that's why he agreed to come to Cleveland.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with it. Now, conversely, he also hasn't had this much wind, rain, or snow to deal with either. He's had a pretty nice climate controlled situation in Houston for most of his years. So that's something that he's going to have to overcome. And there are going to be games in which his wings will be a little bit clipped, like they were in that game where he narrowly beat where the Browns narrowly beat him in 2020. So absolutely, I do think that, some of the talent that he'll have around him will be offset by some of the conditions he's going to have to play in. So that will be a point of emphasis of him and the Browns learning how to work through that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's something I didn't even think of with the wind and the difference. The moves that Andrew Berry has made, what do they tell you about where the Browns sit? Is it win now?
Oh, it's win now. There's no question about that. You don't go out and spend $230 million fully guaranteed and give away 6 draft picks, including 3 first-rounders, if it's not win now. It's definitely win now. And part of the reason why it is win now is because the rest of the roster is poised to win now. And not just for this season, but over the next 2, 3, 4 seasons. This is it right here. This is where you've got Myles Garrett in his prime. This is where you've got Denzel Ward in his prime. Still Nick Chubb in his. Kareem Hunt. Now Amari Cooper. They're all in that 25, 26, 27, 28-year-old age group. So it's now or never. And, I just think that that's where the bar is set for them.
Yeah. Having said that, how does that affect what Andrew Berry does at 44, or doesn't it?
I guess it does to a certain extent. I don't think that number 44 is a make or break pick for them for this year. I think it's somebody that you hope comes in and can start for you. And in that regard, for them, I'm sure they're hoping that it matches up, that it's either a receiver or a defensive end where they have the most need for a starter. But I don't think they're going to let number 44, make or break them in any way. And they'll still add to the pile after the draft, and they still feel good about their chances.
So let's take a look at Ryan Wilson from CBS Sports did a mock draft, a 2-rounder. So at 44, he has the Browns taking Jahan Dotson, wide receiver from Penn State. Here is Dotson's scouting report from NFL.com. And you see the comp, Emmanuel Sanders. Again, that would be a guy that would fit into this offense and is a free agent. But finesse wideout, good speed, great athleticism, fully operational, all 3 levels of the field. Route running is smooth. He's really competitive. Average physical coverage. Seems to look a lot more like a pro when pressed. Inside-outside starting talent. If you think, Mary Kay, if in fact Jahan Dotson is available there, is that somebody you think fits into what the Browns are looking for at 44?
I think so. I watched him up close and personal at the Senior Bowl. Really liked what I saw. Really good, polished receiver. Absolutely 100%. Somebody that I think could step in and help this offense right away. Probably be a starter right away, or at least part of the rotation. And he's got it all, and I think that I think it would be a tremendous choice for them at number 44.
Just a gut feeling. What do you think? Do you think they end up going wide receiver, tackle, or end at 44, or is it too hard to project who's going to be there at this point in time?
It's hard to project. It's really hard to project, but I keep feeling or coming back to receiver. I just feel that way because I feel like they, more so than anything, that they really need to continue to upgrade the passing game. And, you know, if Amari Cooper, and he generally stays very healthy, but in the event that he got hurt for any length of time, you want to have another starting caliber, really good, excellent, even Pro Bowl potential receiver there. So I would think receiver, and I think receiver is deep enough that your best available player could probably match up with that position. And again, as we talked about before, I think they can get Jadeveon Clowney. So you're going to have your other starter over there. They already got Chase Winovich. I'm, for their sake, hoping, and for the fans' sake, that they can get that receiver at 44 or trade up a little bit together.
Mary Kay Cabot and I are going to step aside, take one more timeout. Other side of the break, we head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We will also hear a little bit about Baker Mayfield. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Dan Orlovsky from ESPN, a Baker Mayfield supporter. Today on Get Up, he had this to say about how the Baker Mayfield situation gets resolved.
Yeah, I think it gets resolved this week, and I think Baker Mayfield walks away as the steal of the NFL draft. You know, Greeny, I think of two things. Number one, what would this conversation be like if Baker Mayfield did not get hurt? Or when he did get hurt, sit out, get the surgery, and not try to play through that injury as much as we appreciate and admire it? Because the reality is the vantage point. Are you looking at Baker Mayfield as a player from 2021 or 2020? Because the last time we saw him healthy in 2020, he was top 10 in QBR, and he led the Browns to the playoffs with a defense that was bottom 10 in the NFL. He threw for 27 touchdowns and 8 interceptions that year in 2020. So if teams are going to look at Baker Mayfield through the vantage point of 2021, that's on them, because he was playing with multiple injuries and a torn labrum in his left shoulder. But if you're looking at him through the lens of 2020, and you sit there in this draft and you want a quarterback, if you're the Falcons, or if you're the Panthers, or you're the Saints, or you're the Seattle Seahawks, and you want a quarterback, and you get to that third or fourth round, and the guy that you don't want is there, and you sit there and say, I'm going to trade a fourth-round pick for a guy that 4 years ago was the number one pick in the draft, for a guy that 2 years ago led his team to the playoffs and was top 10 in the QBR, and you're going to trade a fourth-round pick for him? I understand the finances are what they are. That's above my brain power. But Baker Mayfield has the opportunity to walk away as the steal of the NFL draft.
Mary Kay Cabot, I see where he's coming from as far as if you told me to take one of those available quarterbacks for a team I wanted to do well, Baker Mayfield would be probably number one on the list for this year immediately.
Well, you know, I mean, that remains to be seen. I watched Malik Willis at the Senior Bowl, and I really liked what I saw in him. The ball came off the hand very quickly. He was accurate. He was mobile. There were a lot of things that I liked about him. Now, is he going to turn out to be the next Josh Allen? We don't know that for sure. But when I walked away from that Senior Bowl, I saw enough to think that he's somebody that has some tremendous upside potential, very intriguing player, and I would have taken a chance on him if I were the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, they went in another direction, but he does have that dual threat ability, which is the wave of the future, the wave of the present as well. So I don't know. I can't honestly say that, yes, Baker Mayfield would go out there and do a much better job for a team this year than Malik Willis can. Now, a lot of people don't think Malik Willis is polished enough to come in and start right away. They think that he needs at least a year. Well, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. A lot of those college players seem to be able to come in, and if they're in the right situation and they're put in the right situations and given enough to do that they can do well, a lot of them come in and they excel right away. But certainly, I think Baker Mayfield can help a team win. I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world at all for the Panthers to trade for Baker Mayfield, to plug him in and to let it rip and see what he can do.
All right, it was a big weekend for Baker Mayfield. Unveiling of a statue at Oklahoma where he played. Here's a little bit of what happened with Soonerland this weekend.
I dreamt of having a statue right there, and now I do. It blows my mind. It's pretty special to have this place packed like this for a moment like this. I know it's very rare. Thank you guys so much for coming out and let me live out my dreams. I love Sooner Nation, but we have another celebration next year.
And again, Mary Kay, the statue at Oklahoma for Baker, and good for him.
Absolutely good for him. And it saddens me that he's not going to get a statue outside of First Energy Stadium. It really does, because that was the expectation. When they picked him number 1 overall, when John Dorsey did that, he was supposed to transform this football team in the same way that he did Oklahoma. And I do find it to be somewhat sad that it didn't work out that way. He tried so hard. He put his heart and soul into it. I find it really unfortunate that there is that rift now between the Browns and Baker Mayfield, that so many fans have jumped off the bandwagon, because he came in here and he tried to put this team on his back and get things turned around. And it's just really unfortunate that it didn't work out.
This is from NFL Rumors tweet. So they are reporting that the Browns have gotten several calls on Baker Mayfield, but that they want Cleveland, the Browns, to eat some of the salary. He's expected to be moved at the draft. That would be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or shortly thereafter. Salary $18.8 million. So I guess, Mary Kay, the question is, do you think the Browns will in fact have to eat some of that salary? Or do you think it's best for the Browns to just kind of move on as quickly as possible? Just kind of your thoughts on that.
No, I don't think it's best for them to just move on as quickly as possible. I don't think they should just give him away. I don't think that that there's any reason why they should do that. I think Andrew Berry's right in that he would keep him around for quality depth as opposed to just cutting him or giving him away. Now, in terms of eating some of the salary, it's not as simple as just eating some of the salary. There are so many different ways that you can do that, NBA style, where you end up with something in return, or the other team ends up with something in return in terms of almost purchasing a draft pick. So Baker Mayfield could be part of a deal that includes, some money, some draft picks, and everybody comes away with it feeling pretty good.
And again, do you think it happens, or is it too optimistic to think it happens during the draft or shortly thereafter? Does it all kind of dependent on what some of those quarterback needy teams do in the first round of the draft?
I think so. I think, when we're looking at the Panthers in particular, they've got the number 6 overall pick. So they can either decide to trade for Baker Mayfield, or they can decide that, hey, let's see what Kenny Pickett can do for us this year. Or let's start Sam Darnold and then see what Kenny Pickett can do next year. or let's see what Malik Willis can do this year or next year. So it can go either way. The only thing is, if they don't trade him this weekend, then they could be hanging on to him for a little while, because at that point you're starting to get into the season when a quarterback gets hurt before you might generate some new interest.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com as always. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it, Mary Kay.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Mary Kay Cabot, make sure you read her pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com, always up on the latest with the Browns. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break. Brad Ward from brownswire.com and the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast joins us. We head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, a question about this year's team. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about what to expect from the Browns in 2022.
Hi, this is Solitaire. Thanks for taking my call. My question is, I know we're weeks away from the draft. The roster isn't quite set yet. There's still players to be added. But as you see it right now, where do you see the Browns in terms of how far they can go this season? Where's their ceiling? Are we talking Super Bowl? Are we talking AFC Championship? Do you have them ranked as the best team in the AFC? I know we have a lot to prove, but, where should the fans' expectations be this season? Thank you.
As always, we appreciate all of our voicemails. Let's welcome in Brad Ward from brownswire.com as well as All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. So, Brad, I'll defer to you. At this point in time, we'll let you go first. Where do you see the Browns? What's the ceiling?
I think the sky's the limit, Dave. Honestly, I mean, they're all in, right? New quarterback, Jahan Dotson. A lot will depend on, I think, everybody should be watching Thursday, May 12th for the schedule release. I think that'll be big as far as expectations go. Certainly, pending suspensions and how that lines up with the schedule will be influential as far as their regular season. But they should be all in what they do in the draft and after the draft as far as adding veterans and churning the bottom of this roster. And they'll be all in. And I think the sky's the limit. I don't expect a Super Bowl, but it all depends. I mean, each NFL season is its own entity, right? So it's all how it comes together, injuries, the coaching, Watson, this offense. I think the defense will be good. So I think that the sky really is the limit, and it just kind of depends on all of those other factors lining up. You know, it takes a lot of luck to be really good in the NFL.
Yeah, and I mean the caller was asking for the ceilings. Absolutely, the Super Bowl is the ceiling. This roster is that good. It really is. And
absolutely. And
you have a quarterback in Deshaun Watson who is a step above what we had a season ago, and that's no disrespect to Baker Mayfield. I think Deshaun Watson's a top 6-7 quarterback in the league without question. When you look at the areas that the Browns need to kind of improve to reach that ceiling, what jumps out to you?
Well, certainly wide receiver, the defensive line are the obvious ones, right? I think as far as how they're going to go about doing that, it's a little tricky. I think that at 44, it would behoove them to go wide receiver because it's just a more premium position, and I think you can get a more impactful player at 44 at wide receiver than you can maybe as impactful of an edge on the defense at 44. I think you can get an edge later to help you, but you immediately need to find a way to upgrade that wide receiver room. You know, a lot will depend on what happens with Jadeveon Clowney. I know we keep saying that. I think he'll come back, but you can't bank on that, I guess. And the Browns probably know more than we do about that situation. So that kind of is up in the air a little bit. But certainly they will need to address all of those areas by the time the season starts, whether that comes in free agency after the draft, which I'm sure they'll be a part of somewhat because they haven't addressed everything ahead of the draft like they have in the past, right? In the past, Barry has kind of knocked down all those needs so he could play the draft how he wanted to. They're not sitting as pretty as they have in the past. There's some definite needs they have to address.
When you look at the wide receiver market, how's it kind of affecting team building? And it kind of blew up in free agency as far as the price and cost of it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I've been talking a lot about this. It's really interesting. And how it plays out is probably going to kind of frame how the NFL treats this for years to come. So you look at Kansas City, right? They elected to move on from Tyreek Hill and take the compensation. Whereas the Bills, probably the other, top offense in the AFC, they decided to keep Diggs and give him the money. The market's up to $30 million for good wide receivers. You see Deebo Samuel now and San Francisco far apart on what they value him and what he values himself. Same thing with Devontae Adams. Teams are electing to try to move on and banking on with all these talented wide receivers coming in the league that their replacement cost will be so much less to try to fill that productivity that they're giving up. Now, the perfect case study for this is the Vikings, right? They did it with Diggs and Justin Jefferson, but how often are you going to hit that high level on a rookie? That's kind of where this lies, and how this plays out for teams like, can Kansas City take Juju Smith-Schuster, Valdez-Scantling, and a rookie and get the same kind of production they got from Tyreek Hill? I don't think so. But that's what they're going to try to do. And how that plays out will shape how teams are going to build their teams from here on going forward. And especially in this draft, I think you could see a run on wide receivers early because how much more valuable is a wide receiver, a good wide receiver, on a rookie deal versus a guy that needs $30 million on a second contract now? Having those guys on rookie deals is gold right now, Dave.
Yeah, and so the flip side of that is how good does that trade for Amari Cooper look that Andrew Berry made when he got him at $20 million and extended him before everybody started getting ridiculous money at that position?
Absolutely. It looks great now. And, where would the Browns be without that move, right? Seriously.
All right. The other thing is, and Andrew Berry kind of addressed it in his press conference, the thought that there are so many young wide receivers coming in is because you're developing them younger. You're throwing the ball 30, 40, 50 times in high school. They're throwing it more in college. So the and he even mentioned, younger kids are playing flag football. So you've got the skill set being developed throughout the entire breadth of their, football careers before they even get to college. And it was very interesting to hear Andrew Berry talk about how wide receivers have developed the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah, it's incredible. You think about the difference now as compared to the past where, youth they're getting all the nuance of the game, right? Where to put your hands, how to get off the line of scrimmage, how to read defenses from youth football to high school football, all the way up to college football, because you actually throw the ball now. It used to be you never did that at the lower levels, right? It just wasn't possible. And they're getting high level training and high level, agility, route running, all those things are being addressed at such a younger age, and guys are forming into athletes that are ready to come in the NFL and contribute right away. And we've seen that year in, year out, as rookies have had great years and young wide receivers are productive all over the NFL every year. And each wide receiver class just seems to get deeper and better. This one doesn't quite have the high end or top end talent that the last few years do, but it's certainly just as deep.
And you always have guys in the second, even the middle of the second round that blossom into superstar wide receivers. So it'll be interesting. Let me ask you this before we go to a quick break. Who are some names that you legitimately think the Browns could get where they're going to pick at 44? And you can give me wide receiver, edge, tackle. Who are some guys that you think will be there that would intrigue you and you'd say, man, they got themselves a player?
Yeah, well, I like George Pickens, and I think he'll be there at 44. I haven't seen him taken in many mocks before then, so I realistically think he'll be there. A guy that's kind of I've come around on that I think will be there at 44 is Jahan Dotson. He fits the Browns guardrails as far as age, and he would fill that slot role. I like him too there. Sky Moore, I think, could be there. If you look at other positions, I certainly think DeMarvin Leal will be there. Boye Mafe, I think, could be there, and teams are high on him, but he's a little too old for the Browns age guardrails. I don't think they would pull the trigger on him. I really like edge Drake Jackson, and I wish he would fall that far, but I don't think he will. I don't think Christian Watson will make it there just because of the upside. Teams are going to see that athletic and that RAS score and just not be able to hold back on his size and athleticism. I just think they see a gold mine in him. But some other, those are the guys I think will be there. And one name to keep an eye on that we've seen here, Dave, that seems to be falling is George Karlaftis from Purdue. There's rumors of him falling into the second round. If he falls into the second round and Andrew Berry really sees like, hey, this is the guy we can, he would be a guy I could see him making a JOK type move up a couple spots to get if he's still hanging around there second round. I don't know why he's falling. I think he's a little bit of a tweener. He's got short arms, but certainly he jumps off the tape, and that's not enough for me to push him down to second. And we're talking about a guy that was in the top 10, a month ago.
Yeah, and that's a la JOK. There were questions. Browns didn't have those questions, so a good parallel between Karlaftis and JOK. Brad Ward and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we continue talking draft with the Browns. Take a look at some of the superlatives and fits that might fit best with the Browns. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Brad Ward from BrownsWire.com, as well as a host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. This is from ESPN. It's NFL draft guide for each and every team. Gives you the biggest needs and some quiet needs. So we take a look at the biggest needs for the Browns defensive line. And you see a second straight season. They expect it to be Myles Garrett and then potentially Clowney on a prove-it deal. And you see some prospects they feel might fit. DeMarvin Leal, Perrion Winfrey, and Cameron Thomas. Leal and Winfrey are tackles, Thomas an edge rusher. When you see those guys listed as prospects that might fit, who do you like the best out of those, Brad, and what do you like about them?
I like all three of the guys. The thing that I kind of put myself in Andrew Berry's shoes, I don't see him, or I find a hard time looking at his past drafting guys in premium positions like this, and I can't see him taking a guy from San Diego State. he just loves the SEC. He loves the bigger schools, right? That's kind of where he tends to go. I don't know. I like Cameron Thomas a lot. There's some questions though, right? Like he played his best reps in college on the inside and then showed up to the Senior Bowl much lighter at like 264 and then didn't play at all. So there's kind of some questions about what position he would play. Is he an inside or an outside guy? Size-wise, he says that he would be an edge, but his best reps are on the inside, and then he tried to get lighter and didn't even participate. So there's a lot of questions surrounding him. I don't see him as a fit just because of those questions and the school level of competition, right? Winfrey, I think, is a good fit because what they're prioritizing, if you go interior defensive line, is going to not so much be stopping the run, but getting to the passer. And he is that guy, right? He's the guy that can get to the quarterback, and his struggles have been with the run, which kind of seems like if we've talked about with the analytics, is that's not so much the issue right now. It's more about getting to the quarterback. So I think Winfrey's a good fit. Liao would be a good fit. If he's there, the guy that I like better than both of them that I think could be there is Logan Hall. He's a kind of do it both, do it inside, do it outside. Very, very tough to block, and I like what he could bring to the team a lot, and he kind of fits the Browns guardrails as well. So I like Logan Hall better than all the guys they listed there.
All right, now a quiet need in this same article, ESPN Draft Guide, was wide receiver, which we've kind of talked about. And you see their rationale. They don't have Beckham, Landry's question mark. They do have Peoples-Jones kind of developing. The prospects they think might fit: George Pickens, John Mechie III from Alabama, Pickens from Georgia. You like Pickens. Let's go through that again. What do you like about, and I think if I'm not mistaken, you like both of these guys. What do you like about these two?
Yeah, I like them both. I like Mechie more if you were looking in the third round. I think he's more of a fit later. They're both injury guys, right? Which is interesting that they brought them both up, but they are both, that's kind of where they are is because of injury. I think they'd be much higher if they wouldn't have had the injury. The nice thing about Pickens is that he came back, right? And he didn't come back fully, but he came back and played some, and I think that has some value in it. Pickens' size, strength, his ability to run block, his ability to go up and get the ball. I think he's a special player. I don't really understand why he is as far down as he is. From everything that I've watched, evaluated, the testing scores, if he comes back from the injury 100%, I just see him as an elite wide receiver and a steal in the second round. So I love Pickens and would love to get him there. So I think that's a great fit. And you know that. I've been touting him for a while here every time I'm on the show. Mechie I like a lot too. Super, super fast guy, super today's NFL, fills that role in the slot. Very, very, very fast, good route runner, guy that's coming off injury, right? But both guys, you noticed again, Georgia, Alabama, LSU schools, and that's kind of, Barry's MO. So I like both of those guys as fits. Just like Mechie a little bit later, you could probably get him in one of those third-round picks, probably. And Pickens is a guy does not drop a lot of passes. His drop rate was very low. And another guy that we talked about that's going to be red flags going to go up with Watson because he has a huge number as far as drops go. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Watson, that is the red flag. I just can't. His athleticism and size with Christian Watson is just so high level. I just can't see a team not taking a chance on him, right? We're talking about these teams valuing these wide receivers like that. I mean, to me, that's a guy that if you can get him over that drop issue, and some evaluators have had him as high as like 2 and 3 in this class. So this class is all over the place. When you look around, and it's interesting, and you look around at people's evaluations of these classes, everybody has a different 1. Everybody has a different 5. Everybody's top 5 is mixed around. Some of them are in and out. I've seen Watson as high as 2 or 3 in some people's evaluations. So it's really interesting. But I think somebody will evaluate him as he's too good of an athlete with that kind of size to let him fall. Brad Ward from BrownsWire.com, as well as the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. As always, Brad, man, thanks for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much. Thank you, Dave. You're the best, man. All right, Brad Ward. Make sure you watch him. All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. You can read him at BrownsWire.com as well. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow, 4 o'clock. Scheduled guests:
Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter from the Elyria Chronicle-Telegram, as well as brownzone.com. Ashley Bastock from cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. That is tomorrow at 4 o'clock, Sports4CLE. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.